If an avoidant says this, the bond was real. That message you keep going back to, the small one, the one you've gone over more times than you'd admit to anyone. You didn't imagine it. It meant something. The bond was real. So let me say the thing you came here to hear before anything else. You're not crazy. You didn't make it up. The warmth you felt was not a trick of the light. When they said, "I've been in my head lately," or "You'd like this place," something in you went quiet and certain, and that certainty was right. There was a bond, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to prove it to you, piece by piece. Because I know exactly what you're doing right now. It's 2 a.m, the phone is too bright, and you're scrolling back to one ordinary sentence and turning it over like it's a fingerprint lifted from a crime scene. You're asking whether the connection was ever real, or whether you built an entire world out of scraps, and the silence that came after has you doubting your own memory. Here's what makes it so cruel, and I mean that exactly. It isn't only that they pulled away, it's that they pulled away after showing you something real. So now the loss arrives with a question stapled to it. How does the same person who let you see something raw turn around and treat you like you're interchangeable? You're not grieving a clean ending. You're grieving while interrogating yourself, wondering if you hallucinated the whole thing. That's the wound that keeps you up, not the absence, the doubt sitting underneath it. So today, I want to settle this for you, because avoidants don't bond the way you were taught to expect. They don't announce it. They don't pursue you across a crowded room. If an avoidant bonded with you, it didn't come through the front door. It slipped out through the side ones. The comment they didn't mean to make, the detail they let drop, the future they mentioned and then quietly walked back. For someone who has organized their entire life around not needing anyone, a small opening isn't small. It's an earthquake, and they're trying to keep it off your radar. And here's the verdict the whole case turns on. The bond was real. Their ability to hold it was not. Sit with that, because it's going to do more for you than any amount of replaying ever will. The warmth was real. The disclosure was real. The nervous little check-in was real. The casual mention of next summer was real. Their attachment to you was real. And none of it, not one piece of it, proves they were able to stay. Real attachment is not the same as being able to show up. They can feel the bond and still withdraw. They can mean it on Tuesday and be gone by Friday. You weren't imagining the bond. You were mistaking the bond for safety. And if that distinction just landed somewhere real, if I've described the exact loop you've been stuck in, do me a quick favor and hit like, then subscribe. It tells me which cases are worth solving, and it keeps you here for the ones coming next. And in the comments, tell me one thing. What's the single small sentence they said that you still can't stop replaying? Now, back to the evidence. We're going to take this apart in 6 signs, but by the end, I don't just want to answer the question that's been torturing you. Was it real? I want to move you to the question that actually frees you. Was it enough? For each sign, I'll separate 3 things. What they actually said or did, what it really revealed, and the dangerous interpretation, the trap that keeps you sitting by a phone that isn't going to ring the way you want it to. 6 signs. 3 layers each. Let's open the file. Sign 1 is the one most people walk straight past. They tell you what's going on inside them, and nobody asked. I've been in my head lately. I just need to figure some stuff out. I don't know why I get like this. It's not a love letter. It's barely an invitation. It's a window cracked open onto the part of them they keep bolted shut. What it reveals is that you got close enough that they risked letting you see the unpolished version, the static running underneath the calm surface. For someone who survives by managing how they come across, that's not small talk. That's them deciding for 1 second to stop managing the image in front of you. you'd become someone worth being slightly unguarded around. But here's the mistaken interpretation, and it's the one that costs you months. You hear one honest sentence, and you treat it like a key to the whole house. You think, they opened up to me, so they're ready to keep opening up. They're not. For an avoidant, that flash of honesty is often chased by a wave of regret, and the next move is to pull the window shut and pretend it never opened. So hold this one tight. They opened a window. They did not hand you the keys, but telling you what's inside them is the careful version. The next piece of evidence is the one they let slip without realizing what it admitted. Sign 2 feels like the big one because it's the one you've replayed the most. They put you in the future and they do it like it's nothing. You'd like this place. We should do that sometime. I'll show you one day. No date, no plan, no calendar invite chasing it down, but you caught it because suddenly you were a character in a story about their life that hadn't happened yet. What it reveals is that you crossed their mind when you weren't even in the room. For someone who keeps every part of their life in separate sealed boxes, sliding you into the box marked later is real. You weren't only the present moment to them, you'd made it into their picture of what comes next. The mistaken interpretation is that you take a flicker and call it a fire. A casual "we should" becomes, in your head, a promise, a contract you start quietly building your hopes around. But picturing you beside them and being able to build a life beside you are two completely different things. You were in their imagined future. That does not mean they were ready to create one. Putting you in their future is what they do when things are good. The third sign is what they do when they're already leaving, and it's stranger than silence. Sign 3 looks like care, and this is where I have to slow you down, because the mistaken interpretation here is brutal. Instead of just going dark, they explain the going dark. It's not you, I just get like this. I need a bit of room, but I'm not going anywhere. I've been overwhelmed lately. Most avoidants, when they retreat, simply vanish and leave you to fill in the blanks yourself. This one didn't. They left a note on the way out the door. What it reveals is that they were at war with themselves. One part of them wanted gone. Another part couldn't stand the thought of losing the thread completely. The explanation was the compromise, a way to pull back without cutting the cord. It means you mattered enough that a clean disappearance felt too cruel to do to you. And here's the mistaken interpretation that keeps you sitting by the door. You hear a reason and you hear a return. You think, they explained it, so they're coming back, and this time it'll stick. But telling you why the wall is there is not the same as taking it down. A reason for the distance is not a plan to close it. They explained the wall, they did not take it down. Explaining the exit is them managing the distance. But the next one is different. It's the moment they stopped managing the image at all. This is the tell most people miss entirely. Sign 4 is the one that hooks you deepest, because it feels like proof of trust. They let you see the version they're ashamed of, the family wound, the thing they failed at, the fear they don't say out loud, not the curated, sympathy-fishing kind of vulnerable, the real, slightly embarrassing kind, where the guard drops and you're suddenly looking at the outtakes instead of the highlight reel. What it reveals is that you were let behind the controlled image, into the room they keep locked because they're certain that whatever's in there would get them rejected. Letting you see it means, on some level, they trusted you not to flinch. For an avoidant, that's about as exposed as a person gets. But the mistaken interpretation is one of the most painful in the whole case. You witness their wound, and you decide it's now your job to heal it. You think being shown the pain is the same as being handed the cure, that the two of you are partners in fixing them now. You're not. Witnessing someone's wound does not make it yours to dress. They let you see the wound. That did not make it yours to fix. Letting you see the shameful version is loud, even when it's quiet. Sign 5 is almost invisible. You probably interpreted it as nothing at the time. Sign 5 is tiny. Blink, and you'd miss it. And it's loaded. They check quietly whether you're still okay with them. Was that weird? You're not mad, right? We're good? Little throwaway questions, except they're coming from the person who supposedly doesn't care what anyone thinks. That's the tell. The script slipped, and underneath it, they care about your interpretation of them. What it reveals is that they're invested in the thread. They're feeling for the ground under their feet to make sure it hasn't given way. Your opinions started to carry weight. They didn't want a rupture, even while they couldn't handle full closeness. The mistaken interpretation is that you assume that because they care whether they've hurt you, they know how not to. Needing reassurance and being able to give it are not the same skill. Fearing your loss and being able to love you steadily are not the same thing. They cared about the thread. They still did not know how to hold it. Checking if you're still okay with them happens up close. The last sign is what's left when they can't get close anymore, and you've almost certainly seen it on your phone this week. And sign 6 is the one you're probably still getting, the one keeping the wound open right now, the meme, the "this reminded me of you," the story view, the random like at 11 at night, the hope you're doing okay that never becomes a real conversation, the door tapped on, never walked through. It's not nothing, but it isn't a meal either. What it reveals is that they want the connection alive, at a safe distance. They want to know you're still there, still thinking of them, without the exposure of actually showing up. It's the thread kept on life support, maintenance, not movement. And here's the mistaken interpretation, and I want you to really hear this one. You take a crumb and call it the start of a comeback. You think a meme means momentum, that a check-in means they're working their way back to you. It isn't, and they aren't. A breadcrumb can feel like proof when you're starving for clarity, but starvation is exactly what makes crumbs feel like a meal. Now step back from the file and you'll see it. Every one of those 6 signs is a leak, not a flood. The armor slipped, it didn't come off. The mask dropped for a second and went straight back up. You gotta look behind the curtain. You were never asked to live there. To them, every one of those moments was enormous. To you, none of them were enough to feel safe. Both of those are true at the same time, and that gap, right there, is the whole problem. And I know what you've been doing with all of it, because it's what anxious attachment always does. It tries to solve inconsistency by collecting evidence. Did they ever care? Was I seeing too much in it? Why say it if it meant nothing? Why open up and then go cold? Why keep the thread alive if they don't want me? You replay every word, every pause, every almost confession, convinced that if you just gather enough proof, the proof itself will finally let you rest. But here's the trap, and it sits at the dead center of this whole case. You're not actually searching for evidence. You're searching for security, and those are not the same thing. You can prove the bond 10 times over and still not feel safe, because proof of the bond was never going to hand you safety. No amount of proof can substitute for actual safety. And this is where the two of you were never speaking the same language. To them, a small disclosure felt huge, a casual future reference felt exposing, a reassurance bid felt risky, a late-night meme felt like reaching across a canyon. They were spending what felt, to them, like everything they had. To you, wired to need words, time, presence, certainty, those same moments landed as crumbs. Real, yes, but not enough to switch off the alarm going off in your chest. What felt enormous to them still left you starving. So, here's the warning. I need you to write down somewhere you'll actually see it. Do not confuse evidence of attachment with evidence of ability. Attachment is them feeling the bond, caring what you think, missing the thread, keeping a door open, showing you something private, thinking about you when you're not there. All of that is real. All of it is true. Ability is something else entirely. Ability is communicating clearly instead of leaving you to guess, showing up on the ordinary days, not only the safe ones, repairing things after they break instead of vanishing, respecting a boundary the first time, sitting with their own shame without handing it to you to soothe, choosing the relationship in what they do, not just in what they feel. So I mean to say this plainly, missing you is not choosing you, thinking about you is not showing up, opening up once is not opening up for good, a breadcrumb is not a relationship, keeping the thread alive is not being able to hold it, bonded does not mean ready, which means the question you've been asking was never going to set you free. You've been stuck on, was it real? And I've answered that. It was. So let the question change. Move from was it real to was it safe? From was it safe to was it consistent? From was it consistent to was it enough? And then to the only question that actually points forward. What would I need to see, not feel, see, before I trusted this person with my time again? Because here's what the evidence is actually for. It is not a reason to wait. It is not a strategy to win them back. It is proof, for you and nobody else, that you weren't delusional. That's all it was ever good for. You get to let the bond have been real without making it your job to rescue them, repair them, or wait them out. The proof is for your sanity, not your strategy. And you can feel the difference if you let yourself. Being chosen is unmistakable. You feel it in your bones, steady, no guessing required. Being tolerated always feels like standing on thin ice, bracing for the crack. Your body has been telling you which one this was the entire time. The knot in your stomach, the breath you held before every reply. That wasn't neediness, that was data. So you can stop gaslighting yourself. The bond was real. Your interpretation of it was right. You don't have to keep building the case to believe your own memory. You can put the file down and still know exactly what you saw. But you cannot keep living on crumbs, because crumbs keep you hungry. And a person can stay hungry for years, telling themselves the next one will be the one that finally fills them. It won't. You don't need more hope. Hope was never the thing that was missing. What you need is reciprocity. Someone who chooses you on the ordinary days, out loud, in what they do. Hope doesn't feed you. Being chosen does. So here's the final verdict, and then I'll let you go. The bond was real, the signs were there. You were not crazy, you were not delusional, you did not invent the warmth. And bonded still does not mean ready. Bonded does not mean safe. Bonded does not mean available. Bonded does not mean they could choose you, day after day, the way you deserved. The case isn't solved when you finally prove they cared. The case is solved the moment you stop using their small signs of attachment as a reason to abandon your own need for real love. You can say the truest sentence there is about all of it and walk away clean. It was real, it mattered, and it still wasn't enough. I have been the Relationship Detective, and thank you for watching. If this helped you see things more clearly, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I wish everyone watching all the best, and I hope to see you again in the next one.